Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast to talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today, we are talking Marvel casting news and what predictions we have for what's next. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Brown.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
All right.
Man, it feels so good, to just know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people ask me, Lance, how do you live with yourself? Being such a genius, knowing everything. And I just say, it's a struggle, It's such a burden.
Such a curse. Have you looked up what happened to the first appearance of Kang today? The news broke today. We're recording this on the day. I think that's worth looking up right now. But before we dive into that, just want to, of course, thank you all for listening to Nightcap Chat. If you do enjoy our podcast, tell your friends about it, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Also, I have one quick shout out. I'm pulling this up. If you are not listening to Nightcap Chat on your phone, open up Instagram right now. If you have Instagram, and I want you to search for a page called Padawan_nephews. So I found, I was talking to Jason at Drona Comics, and I was buying some Black Series figures, and we started talking about the Black Series figures, and he runs this he's an uncle, and he runs this page with his nephews, and they take these amazing pictures of the Star Wars Black Series. And it's not just cool pictures. He builds these sets, and he was describing it to me. Like he makes them, all these set pieces out of foam and paints them, and like they are absolutely incredible. I think what makes them so neat is because I think when we're kids and we're playing with action figures, like this is like what's in our head, this is what's in our imagination, but he's taking the time to take this a step further and actually execute, like what's in our mind, and just the depth of field on a lot of these photos just make it so real. I'm going to put a link in the description, but just want to point out this page because it's just so much fun.
Dude, his pictures are awesome. I remember when he first showed them to me, I couldn't believe it. I go, that's an action figure?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does it with the 6-inch Black Series, like Blade was saying. And it's just, these are like amazing marketing looking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does them for fun.
Yeah.
But I said, dude, you need to submit these to Hasbro because this is stuff that they can use inside of their advertising marketing. And just that good of energy, creativity that he does in it. It's just, you can't put enough words about how great he is at taking these pictures and bringing these our toys to life in a way that I've never seen before.
I can see it now. Hasbro fires photographer.
Yeah, their current social media manager.
But it's easily free marketing for Hasbro too, with everything he does as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you should run their Instagram or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, look, like this is
already there. Yeah.
This is why you buy them, like this is what's in your mind, yeah, fun stuff, it's perfect for Instagram. That's what you like to see on Instagram. Like you can see like little things pop up, and this is perfect for it. And you guys are that target demographic. So just wanted to tell you all about it. But onto Marvel casting. Just wanted to get that out there because I thought that would be fun. As Lance was saying, we were just talking, was it last week?
Last week, yes.
It was last week, right?
Yep.
This might be that was probably your last chance to buy first appearance of Kang, I think.
Yeah, and I told you, hey, if you didn't listen to me, I'm sorry. It sucks sometimes.
that already worked out. So Avengers 8.
Avengers 8 and Fantastic Four number 19, which predates the Avengers 8 because it's him as Ramatut. And if you want to go one step further, Young Avengers number 1 is the first appearance of Iron Lad. So if you think that they might be going more of that route too, or maybe just they'll do that later on, that's also still something that you should definitely look into grabbing if you really want it.
I'm trying to look up sold items now, but what am I looking at?
You're looking for Fantastic Four 19 or Avengers number 8.
Yeah, what happened to sold items? Where is the button? I cannot find it.
It's on the left. You scroll down.
Buried. It is buried in there. I usually do this on my phone. So this is weird doing it on a computer.
eBay is a little more user friendly sometimes on your phone. Sure.
Absolutely.
One sold
Sometimes
today.
there's way too many options on eBay on the website.
A 5.0
eBay
just
app.
sold for $850.
Wow, for Avengers
Holy
number 8.
crap.
Mm-hmm.
For Avengers 8?
5.0. It's slabbed. One sold for 160, 167 shipped. It's naked. Saying it's fine. 6.5 sold for 800.
Well, this is probably a 3.0 right here. So.
5.5 sold for 650. 225 accepted on Avengers 8. Yeah. So I don't know.
Fantastic Four 19, because that's technically before the Avengers 8.
Wow,
I'm looking that up right now for you guys.
A lot have sold today. A lot have sold today. There are so many people went today and bought this comic. A 7.5 sold for just over $1,000.
In 8.0, Fantastic Four number 19 just sold for $1,200 today.
Wow. That's graded?
Yes.
Here.
And then the rest of them are being best offer accepted, which kind of drives me nuts because you don't see what that final price is.
Isn't it the price that's crossed out?
Now, I guess when it's crossed out, doesn't it mean that a lower price was accepted? But I don't know why they don't show you what that is.
I'm going to click on one of these with best offer accepted.
I'm going to have to put out some eBay listings tonight.
Yeah, there is only been so far 4, 5, wow, dude, 6. There was 6 of the Fantastic Four 19s purchased today.
There was a lot more Avengers 8s. I can't even count.
And some of those, this is kind of something that kind of gets weird. Like, I feel like it's gonna be one of those comics that people are gonna be like, well, which one should be more valuable? Him as Kang or him as Ramatut?
Well,
but it should just be the Fantastic Four one, right?
One of the first articles that I clicked was the Den of Geek one, and they are saying the time traveling foe made his debut in Avengers 8. So some people are getting their information from articles like this.
Oh, well,
wrong. So gotcha. That is his first appearance as Kang. So Kang, yes. So it's not incorrect. It's just one of those things is what do you want?
Right.
To me, I think I would prefer the Ramatut one.
Yeah, because that's the road to him.
Yeah.
It's part of the story.
Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting. So that news broke today. And this is for Iron Man 3. Okay.
No, Ant-Man.
Ant-Man 3. What did oh my gosh, did I say Iron Man?
Iron Man 3.
It's because I'm reading and I'm talking, passively here. Something really interesting in the superhero hype article, when the report broke that Jonathan Majors is going to be playing Kang, there's an interesting sentence in here. It said,
wow, you read that really well.
Okay, the report also notes that, quote, there could be a twist with how the character is featured in future films. But as of now, he is likely to be one of the main villains in the next installment in the franchise.
I think that just means he's going to be Iron Lad.
Or maybe there's going to be different actors playing him each time.
That'd be interesting.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's, like Iron Lad.
Yeah.
That's one example right there.
I can see him like hooking up with Loki. Is that going to be a possibility of things? Since didn't Loki find something that he snagged back when they're all back in time inside
of the Tesseract?
Yes, he has the Tesseract, right? Is Kane coming for that from Loki at all?
Well, it's not necessarily the Infinity Stone, but the implication here is we saw in that little trailer that the Time Variance Authority captured Loki at some point, and he's screwing up that timeline because he stole the Infinity Stone from where it's supposed to be within that timeline. So you're absolutely right. Maybe Kang is noticing that, because like, you're screwing up this timeline, and now this is going to be a chain of events where I cannot conquer or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because Kane's going to see something along the timelines that they did inside that last movie, obviously, pretty much. And it's interesting, the Ant-Man type of thing too, because I guess was the Ant-Man the person that helped develop the machine off his technology, if I remember right, on the time machine technology.
Because of the quantum realm stuff.
Obviously. Yes. And so, but I really see this as also, as you said, we're talking a little bit off screen about this, is the Fantastic Four could come out of this too.
Oh, 100%.
In the long term. This could be the road to the Fantastic Four as well, because I always thought it would be fun with the microverse, that's a great way to bring in Reed Richards exploring the microverse, and Ant-Man runs into Reed exploring how this microverse works.
Yep.
And I also think,
right?
I think it's I mean, like, his first appearance is in a Fantastic Four comic, because the Fantastic Four go back in time and they run into him, right? But it's also another way to link the X-Men, because he was trying to get an heir to take over for him when he left, ruling all the pyramids, and that heir was going to be Insab-Nur, right?
Yeah, Apocalypse.
So that's a perfect way to get Apocalypse to get rolling into this as well. And then he can just, leave that timeline, come back, and then now you have something with Iron Lad that's going to be in the future. I just think there's so much potential with Kang's story. Even in the comics, he at one point was trying to get at Mantis, because it was foretold that she was supposed to give birth to a child who had immense power, and he was trying to marry her because he wanted to have a child with her. So it'd be interesting if they got, some of that dynamic. I mean, and they made her extremely powerful in the MCU. She was able to put a Celestial to sleep. I mean,
and Thanos.
And Thanos, yes.
Yeah, that's nuts. I think you're absolutely right on the Fantastic Four thing. I actually thought in Ant-Man and the Wasp, I was waiting for them to just show up. Just with the quantum realm stuff, she was in there. But then Wasp said something about like the next stage in evolution or something like that within there. So I was like, wait, are we going to do like an X-Men thing, or like where are we going with this?
Yeah, where was it an Humans thing too? Because there's always was that going to be the beginning of like doing like a Terrigen crystal type thing where they make Inhumans?
Yeah, I
don't know. There's so much potential, and the crazy thing is, like, with you don't really look at it. The Ant-Man movies is like, when we first heard of it, before Ant-Man, we had an Ant-Man movie, right? We were like, oh, how are you going to do a movie about Ant-Man? Like, this is so lame. Like, there's no way this is going to be any good.
I went opening day, but I was not happy about it. I was like, how are they going to do this? This is Paul Rudd. Like, there's no way. And it was really good.
Right. And then when you did the second one, you realize how much, when you start getting into the quantum realm and all that stuff, you just leave like infinite potential in those movies now. So whatever can happen in Ant-Man 3 is just basically up to your imagination. It's just trying to connect the dots with different characters.
I mean, in theory, this has to deal with some of the consequences from Endgame, right? I mean, he was directly involved with all that stuff. Like, they had the machine that allowed them to time travel. He's probably not too happy, that they're doing this. It'd be interesting to see how deep this reaches, because we see the time variance authority stuff going on with the Loki series, as Ken pointed out. Now we see Kang is popping up in Ant-Man 3, and we know we have Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness. Like, there's something crazy is going to happen, like, soon.
Right. And it's also, I think, big with all the, not only the new addition of having X-Men properties, but also whatever secret deal Sony has worked out with Marvel, and how Marvel and Sony, they keep having things like now all of a sudden their video game stuff is kind of mixing together. Like Spider-Man and Venom are now in things, and it's just interesting to see, is that how Sony's gonna kind of pull into their universe a little bit too. It's kind of interesting because they both have like their feet in the water in each other's universes right now with Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, it's like I see Kane seeing a large opportunity for him to take advantage of what's happened in the time stream. Because if this guy is watching time over and over and over again, it's going to be an easy way after what happened in the end game for him to like, okay, cool. They think they're safe now because they've just done this huge successful triumph over Thanos. And maybe they could even say like Thanos being defeated allowed Kane to come and take advantage of Thanos not being the threat that kept them in the future.
And more than that, when they defeated Thanos, what did they do? They had to bring back, Thanos already destroyed the Infinity Stones. They had to get Infinity Stones from another time, and they brought him back. So you're talking about a timeline where the Infinity Stones do not exist. So you can't stop Kang with the Infinity Gauntlet right now.
Yes.
In theory, that would stop him, right?
Right.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Or just an Infinity Stone period.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all gone, so what are you going to do? You can't, you just have to go with whatever you know. And I think that maybe that's big for like, the development of, the strength of characters like Thor and Captain Marvel, how they've kind of elevated their strength, especially Thor, how, in the beginning it was like, it was Thor, but now he has like the Odin Force and now in the comics he's cosmically aware and he has the Odin Force, right? So
and the Galactus power too, doesn't he? Because I was just scrolling through a panel. Didn't he take Galactus's power while he was fighting Black Winter too?
Yeah.
So, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah, so I feel like there's just so much there for Kang. The only thing I feel like I'm kind of curious about now that I'm thinking about it, you just had this 10 years of going after Thanos, right? And you're just going after this big purple guy, but then you're gonna have Kang, this big purple guy from the future now. Like,
well, he's blue with,
or whatever.
with purple. I mean, he's
with purple. Like, I'm just wondering if they're gonna go like completely classic or like how they're gonna like approach. How are you gonna make him look? Like, I think that's like one big thing that I'm kind of curious about, because I feel like sometimes with the MCU they try to make things look like the character, but they want to make it look realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like certain characters, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense that he looks like that way. Walking around in spandex is kind of weird. You know what I mean? Whereas Kang, he's kind of like wearing like a robe and like he's like a robot, but he's not. But it's just, I'm just curious and I don't know, maybe you guys have a better idea, but I really don't know like what direction they would go with, or they're just gonna go with a completely authentic thing because he's from 31st century and it's just whatever.
It's like that, have like their own imagination of what the future will look like. Could be, like I said too, Kane, he's kind of an unknown on that type of thing because he is coming from a future. Disney can do whatever they want with the design. Mm-hmm. Like Star-Lord totally got an overhaul, but he looked pretty BA when he hit the theater because they reworked the design for the Star-Lord movie character in the comics.
Yeah.
Like when Bendis and McNiven relaunched Guardians of the Galaxy, that's the first time Star-Lord ever looked like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they did that because they wanted to match the design that the movie guys said, hey, let's have it look like this. So it looks like an Indiana Jones Han Solo / a guy wearing a mask for the comic book fans to bite into. So you may see another comic come out way before Ant-Man finally gets, like within a year of the Ant-Man 3 movie, where we see a redesigned look of Kane that matches what they will be doing inside of the movie, similar to what they did with Star-Lord.
I would venture to guess that it might be something in between, like a little bit of redesign, but it's still kind of there, because Kang has been popping up for a little bit within their media. That's how we knew this was bound to come sooner or later. Like the first major thing was all the way back to Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, the video game, and Kang was the main bad guy for that. And I would venture to guess he still have a blue face. I think it would be really neat to kind of embrace this look where you're kind of not really sure if he's organic, if he's a robot, kind of like Vision. You look at Vision, you're like, okay, like he's maroon or whatever color, that they painted him there. It's kind of confusing, kind of interesting. I think that would be fun. And you look at the Eternals, and they're not exactly doing that Kirby art, but in some of the leaked images, you kind of see remnants of their costumes are still, holding true, and I think that's all that matters,
Yeah, and I can see the Eternals. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some type of, he's mentioned in the Eternals movie, or there's some type of like room, like there's like a little Easter egg about him, because I mean, if you're talking about somebody traveling from the future to like come conquer another timeline, why wouldn't it be mentioned in a type of movie like the Eternals?
Yes, and like an after the credits scene.
Mm-hmm.
That sets up the next step of the movies, which is this, Ant-Man, the next Ant-Man 3, the next step, or what's the Black Panther 2 coming out still, or Black Panther 2 still coming out beforehand as well, right?
The next two movies are Black Widow, Doctor Strange.
Okay.
And wait.
It's Black
I'm
Widow,
sorry.
the
Eternals, and then Doctor Strange, right? Those are the next three.
So like anywhere between, at the end of any of those movies, we'll see, like I said too, that road to Kane, like even a little teaser bird seed after each one of them. Like, what is this? Like little ripple effects in time that we think is from the end of Endgame, but it's actually could be teased that it's not that. It's actually Kane that is messing with the ripples of time now, since he saw how easy it was to do.
And there's
expected.
Yeah, and there's been like little retcons on certain issues. Like we discussed in the last episode, like a lot of Kang's origins are foggy. They say one thing, he's gone by Nathaniel Richards, he's not Nathaniel Richards, he is whatever it is. Maybe they'll just retcon him to be an Eternal. We saw that happen with Ego. Ego said he was a Celestial. Ego was never a Celestial before that, as far as I'm aware. And they did that with Star-Lord too. They made him part Celestial, just to make you comfortable with this Celestial concept. They could do something similar with Kang. And quite frankly, like, I don't know that would really bother me. We don't really know.
It was also a reason. So Star-Lord gets hit by somebody. You're like, how's he not dead? He's just
Yes, absolutely. You're
right.
Right.
It would be kind of ridiculous if he went through all that and it's like, yeah, he's fine. He didn't break anything. He's good. Like, no way.
That's fair. I'll give you that. Any final thoughts on Kang here before we move on?
Just excited to see where it comes.
Yeah, it's super exciting, and I know there was also like some rumors before about Annihilus, and now I'm wondering, what's that mean for Annihilus? Does that mean that's gonna be pushed back, or is Annihilus gonna be just like an Avengers 4 person that they just use kind of like one time and then like that's it? And Kang is gonna be like that build up character, because I feel like Kang has more potential to be that build up kind of guy, where Annihilus could be, but he's looking to destroy the universe, and I feel like it would just be one big battle. It would be, it'd be over, or he would go back.
Could you have Kane and Annihilus team up?
Well, what you just inspired me to think Kang is just a conqueror, right? And so, being conquered, that's not too bad, but conquering is not destroying, right? Annihilus wants to destroy everything. So you can have Kang maybe as like this Loki level threat, where he's in multiple movies and you do have to team up to stop him. But maybe there's a big twist where, like, you fools, like, you stop me, now something worse is coming. And it's Annihilus who's coming to destroy everything. And maybe it's too similar to Thanos. He's trying to be a savior, kind of a thing. But I mean, in theory, being destroyed is worse than conquered,
Especially today, though, with how the trend of movies, you always now have to have a villain who has a thought process or a plot that makes sense to the viewer and that you could agree with them to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, like 10 years ago, it was just like, I'm a villain, I'm the bad guy, I just want to kill people. And then you were just like, okay, he loses and la-di-da, right? Where now, like especially with the Marvel movies, it's always there's more to it than just like I'm the bad guy. It's there's a lot deeper thought process that comes. It's not going to just be I'm Kang, I just want to conquer. There's going to be more to it than just that.
And if it's Marvel, it's I've been jaded by Tony Stark and now I'm mad at everybody. So I think there's still room for both.
So I can have my cake and eat it too. Gotcha.
Absolutely. So some more casting news. This isn't new casting, but I think it's very exciting. Superhero Hype is reporting that GSP, George St. Pierre of the UFC champion fighter, is reprising his role as Batroc in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool that they made like such a lame character like interesting, kind of like oh, it's cool. Like I never thought I would see like Batroc in a movie and I'd be like, oh, cool, like it's Batroc, great. Like you know what I mean? Like it's such a lame character, but it's kind of cool to see like a C-list villain character kind of like having their role reprised, because I feel like sometimes with these like smaller villain characters, they kind of they're like, oh, there's that guy and he's gone. And they just get thrown to the wayside. And you're like, well, it'd be kind of cool to see them in multiple things, especially when you have like villains, like superheroes like Spider-Man, where it's like, we grew up with like the TV series where they're always fighting like, oh, you fight the same guy like 5 times and
Shocker.
Throughout, right. You keep fighting Shocker. Like he's not that interesting, but like, yeah, you fight him a couple times. It's kind of cool to see the relationship build.
You don't want him to be the main bad guy, but if he keeps popping up to rob a bank and then you stop him, like that's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes you feel like you're into a comic more than just like, oh, here's a movie and like there's the one villain. Like you're reading a comic. I think that's what's really cool about this recasting. The reprising the role, I should say.
I think it works really well. That's the too. It's like it's fun. Like it works so well with Agent Coulson, for instance. I mean, Agent Coulson was a character in the movies, and they had him more or less killed off. You thought, but then he reprised his role in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., become like a major character.
Yep.
And who knows? I guess the two, like Batroc, Batroc may become something that is a character that shows up continuously. As you said too, that the thorn in the side type of thing, or he's the informant for whoever the main villain is going to be in the TV show. Like you can do so much carrying him on an episodic basis, and that's kind of fun for the fans who saw the movie, because they, that's something that it gives more rewatchability to watching that the movie he appeared in, Captain America 3, right?
No, 2 was in Winter Soldier.
2 in Winter Soldier, and it's kind of fun to see those characters come from the big screen to the small screen and fall. Like we're loving Mandalorian so much because of it. It's like sweet. It's not Boba Fett, but it is a Mandalorian we get to see on a regular basis, and it just excites the stuff out of us.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting is like, we always talk about how, like Blade mentioned earlier, the Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, the main villain was Kang, and a lot of times it seems like anyway, Marvel tries to feel the water out with certain like ideas and certain characters to see like how the audience responds, and maybe they want to put it in like MCU thing or just get people comfortable with that person or that idea in general. But Batroc was a character that they kept putting into the Spider-Man animated series constantly. He was just constantly he would just be there for an episode flipping around. You're like, why would you guys have Batroc? And then now you having him reprise his role in the MCU. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there because it's like, when have you ever heard or seen him in anything? And then you put him in the MCU, and now he's in the animated Spider-Man series multiple times. It's just kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, it feels like they want you to be aware of who these characters are, and that way it's like that you're more invested in watching them as they pop up on the screen. Because I said too, if it was just they kept him as a throwaway character, then it's like, it's not that exciting to see him pop back up for you. As you said, it's like that, dude. You're going to become more invested with him now that he's becoming a regular part of our storytelling. And I said too, like popped up in Spider-Man, the I said too, it's like, it's interesting, like in the comics, they kind of did the same thing with Sabretooth back in the day. It's like, okay, he's an Iron Fist villain. Oh, he's, let's put him up against Spider-Man. And then all of a sudden, oh, cool, let's have him up against Wolverine. And then he became a natural match for that character. And so there's like, okay, cool. It's like Baytrock the Leaper wasn't really a big deal in Captain America storytelling, but it was a chance to really develop a natural rivalry between him and the Winter Soldier, or him and Falcon. Yep. And it becomes something that they can carry on for many years of like, wow, this guy is a great element of the storytelling we've left on the shelf for way too long. Let's bring him in, make him a great part of this cinematic universe where he wasn't really that big of a deal in the comic universe.
I'm not like a big UFC fan, but like I do watch it. It's like I'll gravitate towards certain fighters, and that'll make me want to buy the fights or whatever. Especially if it's like Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Joanna. I honestly can't pronounce her last name properly, so I'm just gonna skip it. But I mean, I missed most of GSP's career, but like I've seen some of his fights, and like he's just such a good dude that like you can't help but be a fan, And when I saw them cast him as Batroc, I was so excited, and I never thought for like such a character like that I'd be like, oh, I can't wait for this. Like Marvel handled that perfectly. And when his scene came up in Captain America Winter Soldier, like I remember being so excited, and he was like kickboxing, Captain America, and they had a great fight scene, like, and it was awesome. Like they handled that perfectly. They made a dumb character awesome. And now I'm so excited to see more of Batroc, which is just so weird to say.
And he didn't like say, he only had like one line in the movie, right? And he said it in like French, right?
Yeah, he said something to the pirates. I thought he said something to Captain America because he
said because Captain America responded in French too, I think, right?
Yeah,
or
you're right.
I think so. I could be wrong, but I think that's kind of cool that they also kept that part.
Mm-hmm. Well, GSP is French, so like
yeah, I know
beyond perfect casting. Like this could not have worked out any better. I
think it's cool that they kept it like authentic and like him saying things in French because even in the TV shows he would always be like like ho ho ho, like they have him with like a French accent or whatever. It was cool because it was like, oh, you're keeping him genuine, but then you have the MCU guy who's just speaking in French and he is French, and that's
and not a caricature of French. Like it's real, and he's a kickboxer, and he's kickboxing with Captain America and can go toe to toe with him. And he's not just like, oh, I'm going to twist my mustache and I'm evil and I'm going to leap. Like,
right.
That's not what we needed.
Yeah, and they made another character, like that's a villain that was like we were saying before, he's usually in like purple spandex, and now you just made him like a thug kind of guy, which kind of makes sense then instead of him just flipping around.
But there is truth to his original costume within what he's wearing, because it did have a purple tinge and it had that yellowish. It was a very dark yellow, but it had that lining. So the truth of his comic book costume was still there. Because I mean, like and I think we talked about this before, like that's one thing DC has done better than Marvel is like they just go for the costumes. I mean, you look at Wonder Woman, you look at Batman, you look at Superman, like it's their costume is clearly those costumes, right? I mean, Flash it's there, but I mean like in the movie they kind of made it a little, I don't know. It was very busy, I guess. But I mean, Marvel was scared a few times, You look at Hawkeye. I mean, they barely did the ultimate costume. Scarlet Witch, once again, like barely did the ultimate costume.
Well, her costume's really kind of.
You're right. But I mean, like there's nothing. I mean, like she had a red jacket on.
But she will have her costume in the TV show.
Every time they do that, like it makes me sad, like how many times this is something that more the Netflix shows have been guilty of, is like, it's like they give the finger to the costume, like in the Luke Cage show, he threw on that yellow shirt. And like when he broke out of whatever it was called, he had the things on his wrist and the thing like, he had the classic costume on for like that one scene. Same thing with Jessica Jones. She put on her, is it Jewel, right? Her Jewel costume, and she's like, oh, this looks stupid. You know, why do they keep doing that? You know,
I just think, it's just they want it to seem like it's in your real world. Like you could see these people, and it just wouldn't make sense. Like, why would you just go outside in a leotard? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, who would do that? Nobody's going to do that. It just doesn't make sense. Like, who's like, I'm going to go fight some villains. I'm going to put on this red, tight little leotard thing and
Spider-Man.
red leggings. That's different. That's a teenage boy trying to like hide himself and try to look cool, and like that costume makes sense because you can think, if you think like a teenager, you're like, oh, a kid would think this is cool. Like a kid would think this looks like, oh, I'm gonna be a superhero. I have to dress up. Whereas like you have these adults who are mature and understand, like, I don't need to be cool. You know what I'm saying? Like the Spider one, it makes sense, 100%.
It's like, dude, he saw like the new Nike, athletic suit. He wants, the teenagers, the kids want to have the most awesome fashions going at that time. And then like that, the other adults like that, hey, we got to make this functional. This has got to be practical. This has got to make sense to us to survive this huge battle. And Spider-Man's just excited to, hey, dude, I got to look like that. I'm enjoying doing this, but I'm going to look good doing this too as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have your Spider-Man costume. Like, I totally see what you're saying there, Lance. Like that. That's the whole thing too, the appeal. Like, how many pairs of those Nike Air Jordans sold after Miles Morales wore it into Enter the Spider-Verse? I mean, that's Jordans have always been popular. Don't get me wrong, but there's a huge segment of comic fans that going out looking for those Air Jordan 1s because Miles was wearing them inside of that Enter the Spider-Verse.
Well, if we got the Fantastic Four coming up, we know the big thing with their suits is the unstable molecules thing, right? And that's why they're able to adapt to their bodies and, not catch on fire. It stretches with them. It goes invisible with them, whatever. And I guess things just stretches or something. I don't know. Maybe going forward, Reed Richards can have a hand in some of these spandex costumes because there's a practical purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a reason.
It's funny because, and obviously people, for the most part, people are going to go see the new Fantastic Four, what we hope comes out. People are probably have also seen the previous Fantastic Four movies, but I wonder how many people are going to go see the new Fantastic Four, and they're going to do that thing with the costumes, right? And then people are going to be like, what are they doing? This is like the Incredibles. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be so like they don't know that they've been around since 1964 or whatever. They're just going to be like, the Marvel just stole stuff from the Incredibles.
That's hysterical.
Like, their suits just stretch with them. They're special material. It's literally the same thing.
That's really funny. Yeah. Then I guess the best way to do that is within someone else's movie, like you did with Black Panther and Spider-Man.
It would be funny if like they did some kind of timepiece Fantastic Four story where Disney did an interview with Reed Richards about an idea for a family called The Incredibles. That's all part of the Disney universe.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Like interviewing like that. Yes, like the whole family dynamic. Okay, so how does this work? How does how do we explain how these costumes work for you on this Incredibles movie? They kind of like almost like retrofit that the Incredibles were based off the Fantastic Four, and they're all in the same company now, so they can pull it off.
I would like to see maybe an advertisement for the Incredibles movie coming out, and they're like they couldn't get the rights to Fantastic Four, and like this is the same thing, maybe I don't know. They're trying to sue them. I don't know.
Yes.
Or you could have a reporter talking to them, be like, so people are calling you the Incredibles. What do you think about that? Be like, no, we're the Fantastic Four. Like just like a little quick little joke right there, and then just cut away from it. Although Thing doesn't really have to have a suit, right? He's just Thing.
Well, that's what happened in the last movie, right? That Josh Trank Fantastic Four, like he was just a naked thing, and it was kind of weird.
I mean, not gonna lie, I didn't waste my money to go see it, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, I just saw it on the poster. Don't get me wrong.
Gotcha.
I did go ahead and watch their origin on YouTube the other day. It was kind of weird. I don't know what was happening. They were reaching into like this green glowing rock, and then they had to escape. I don't know. It was
the last Fantastic Four movie where Doctor Doom, it's got to be part of something to do with the Fantastic Four, no matter what.
Yeah.
That was the most disturbing thing of that movie. Because I said too, I did go see it in the theater. I had to go to confession afterwards to pray for forgiveness for poisoning my mind on the reality of the Fantastic Four. And there's reasons why Disney had to like pony up to buy Fox, and that was one of them, I believe. Is you can't change that much history to the Fantastic Four. And the Doctor Doom side, I think, was like probably the biggest thing I've ever seen of like, Victor Von Doom going on the mission with them, not in space, but in the alternate reality, and getting all mutated in this alternate reality and coming back. It's like, okay, it's like too many errors. I can, if you're telling me a good story, I can get it. But if you're telling me that I can't read the Fantastic Four comics, if I go to see this movie and find anything like that, then you're kind of like, okay, we just can't, we can't do Fantastic Four for a while. What ironically Marvel did. There was no Fantastic Four for about 5 years. It was the Future Foundation and stuff like that. We're doing our own thing. Fox, you have the Fantastic Four. We're developing these characters to the next level, and maybe it's the whole thing too. Your Fantastic Four, maybe a Future Foundation type of story, rather than what they, to completely get away with what Fox tried doing to Fantastic Four in their 3 movies.
Well, I mean, to completely get away from it, I mean, just do a really comic book accurate Fantastic Four, and it's going to be pretty different, because both times now, Victor Von Doom was with them during the accident. Like Fox just can't help themselves. Have that be separate. When you bring in Galactus, don't have him be a cloud, and, just don't make it campy, have the Thing not be 5'9". Which they did try to do that right in the Josh Trank one, but he still looked like I don't know, he looked more like Korg than the Thing there. So like that was kind of weird. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like Michael Chiklis did a great job as the Thing, and he looked pretty good, for superhero movies at the time, but I'm ready for something better.
And what's kind of weird about that whole thing is that I feel like they did all that stuff wrong, but then you got Silver Surfer, and like you did such a good job, I felt like, with Silver Surfer. It's like, I don't understand where they come up with like all these ideas, and then they like nail one thing, like you're like, oh, that was great, and then everything else, like what happened? Like you couldn't just do what you did with that one guy for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like Silver Surfer was great. It was like, oh, he beat up Human Torch like he was nothing. It was awesome. What a great scene. He just choked him out into space and dropped him. Awesome. And
yeah.
What?
I was just saying, like, and they took the time to have, oh my gosh, what's his name? Dave Jones? Doug Jones.
Doug.
Sorry, Doug Jones. They took the time to cast Doug Jones, who did perfect on the body and motion capture work, and they had Lawrence Fishburne be his voice. And like, I love it when they combine actors to bring a character to life. Like it's just the best of everything. Yes. I mean, that's the original, right? Like you wanted David Prowse, like to be this big menacing, but you know what? You go, I encourage you. And I know I've said this before, Google the Darth Vader without being dubbed by James Earl Jones. And it's like, you are a part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. Like it is ridiculous. It's like when you combine people, to make these characters, 100%, like we get some of the best stuff out of it, and like Star Wars is killing it with that. I mean, we're doing it with Darth Maul now. Like we got Ray Park as Darth Maul, and we saw in Solo, we had his voice actor from Clone Wars and Rebels be his voice, because that's who's been the voice of Maul during this era, aside from, episode 1. I don't know. I just think that's when the magic happens. That's outside the box casting. And you're right. It was perfect. Yeah. He's like, Galactus is coming. You remind me of my love back on Zenla. It was great. But then they were over here doing Human Torch Super Skrull. or whatever that was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they have a cloud that's Galactus, and then
this like I guess they spent so much money on making Silver Surfer look perfect. I said, okay, let's just have it be a force of nature, shiny cloud coming over the sky.
But you can see his helmet in the cloud for a second.
And then Silver Surfer like kills him.
Yeah, I know, dude.
It's like, you could have just done that in the first place? I'm so confused. What? Why didn't you just already do that? Why are you still just being his follower? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's
just made no sense whatsoever.
That's a good point.
I still don't believe that Fox read any of the comics that they wrote these movies about. I mean, I think that is, once again, I feel like everything that Fox did, they went to Wikipedia and read the thought processes and said, okay, let's make movies based off of this.
Well, they most likely didn't, because I mean, look at people like Olivia Munn, who are all into their characters, and she is fighting with directors about like, well, my character would never do that, like, because of X, Y, and Z. That doesn't make any sense. And they just don't care, because they're not putting people that actually care about the fans or the history of the characters. They just want to put out their idea, because they think so much more about other things than everybody else, because they're above everyone. I don't know what's wrong with some of these directors.
They're Hollywood. They understand what the fans want. It's like, well, as I said, you obviously don't understand what comic fans want. That's why Fox doesn't have any of those properties anymore, or much less their movie company. Right?
It's true.
You guys do that well. Stick to news. You guys do that well.
Yeah.
Movies?
That's a start. I mean, yeah, and we still haven't even done our last Fox X-Men movie episode.
Oh wow!
Because we have to round out our last time talking about it, because we did an episode in Dark Phoenix. We did 2 very long episodes on every other Fox movie. So we've got one more coming. Eventually, we'll get to it.
We have like 5 minutes. We can do it.
We can squeeze it in. But in these last few minutes, I do want to get everyone to cast their vote on what they think is the next big news coming out. We said Kang's coming. Lance said, Fantastic Four 19, Avengers 8, Kang is coming. This may be the last chance. And a week later, so it was. What do you guys think is next? What is the next big news coming out of casting here? I'll go first if you need a second.
Yeah, go first.
Okay. Now this isn't just arbitrary, but this character is popping up in comics in big ways, in some of the biggest ways that we've seen in a long time. Appearing in a comic book on a character who's having like some of the biggest sales ever. This character is popping up in all kinds of different mediums, different merchandise, and we've talked about this before. And he is coming, and they have the rights from Fox. Galactus is coming very soon. Are they going to cast him? Is he going to be CG? Is he going to be after the credit scene? I'm not sure. Do you have someone play Galactus? Or do you have someone voice Galactus? Do you have Christopher Walken just come up and be like, hey, I'm here to devour your world?
Sean Connery as Galactus.
I'm going to devour your world now.
You definitely have to have, obviously, somebody with a James Earl Jones type, voice, I feel like, to pull off that role. And I think you just CGI it, I don't think you need to do much else besides CGI and get someone with a great voice, or I don't know. That's hard. Or, I know we've talked about, like, have we talked about Living Tribunal on I think we have talked about him on Nightcap Chat before.
Yes.
But you could do a similar thing like that where you have a couple people voice him. That could be cool too, because he's so big and menacing.
Well, like, to me, Living Tribunal has 3 faces, and I would love to see like just 3 voices going at once. And like, I'm not even sure I want his mouth to move. Like, just make it really weird. Like, just the word is what's happening, and you hear it, and so it shall be. You know, some like,
or you take it even a step further,
mm-hmm.
and when he's talking, you flash to like certain characters' viewpoints, and they're all hearing it how their like brain would hear it, like what they would look to as like, oh my gosh.
So for Star Lord, it's Kevin Bacon, is what you're saying.
Right.
That's interesting. Or maybe they're just giant speech bubbles. That's what Deadpool sees. Oh, I can't believe I just said that. I'm mad at myself for making it stupid for Deadpool.
But yeah, no, Galactus. I think you get like a James Earl Jones type guy, someone with a deep voice, menacing, and just go with that. I think.
I'm gonna go off on a weird limb. Seen a lot of attention on Amadeus Cho books starting to climb out of nowhere.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see the road to the champions start to be set up a little bit there too.
Okay.
Like Totally Awesome Hulk, like somehow introduce Amadeus Cho into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have to become Totally Awesome Hulk right away, obviously, but this really ingenious brain mind that they can bring in as like a minor character to introduce us to Reed Richards. And Amadeus Cho being like one of the great minds of the Marvel Universe, connecting through Avengers, be introduced as someone, do you know what I mean, that comes in being introduced by Bruce Banner as like, hey, this guy is the future. He sees things. He understands things. He's equally on my level of brain trust to protect this world. And he's going to be even worth working with, do you know what I mean? On the side of even on Ant-Man, where Hank Pym, introduces Amadeus Cho into the think tank of how to protect the world from what happens going forward after what they dealt with in the end game. And once again, it's a reach, but I'm going to go with an Amadeus Cho introduction and then maybe a surprise announcement of an actor being more of a minor character that can develop into a major character as it goes.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So to support your theory, I don't know if you're aware of this character, but in Avengers: Age of Ultron, the doctor that's helping out Ultron is Helen Cho, who is Amadeus's mother.
Really?
So there's already some groundwork being laid. So
so maybe we're
getting there.
And in Age of Ultron, she was trying really hard to sleep with Thor.
What? What?
When they were talking about they were having a party, right? And she was like, "Will Thor be there?"
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that joke she made?
No, I don't.
Because they were like, "Oh, they're gonna when they go to Stark's little mansion or whatever."
I don't even remember her being there.
I don't know if she was there because that's where Ultron sees her and he goes, Remember the little robot like looks at her and goes, and then like because he like like scanning everyone. He's like, oh, because it's just like probably researching who everyone is, and it's like, oh, she knows how to make like synthetic things. I'm going to use her to create my vision because she knows how to make that. That's how that happened.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're learning things about a movie that's like 6 years old.
I've only watched it like maybe 3 times, and
I'll have to watch it again now too, because that's a lot of good information. Because I feel like if I rewatch everything in a row, there's going to be so much stuff we can talk about that's coming.
I'm going to be honest. That movie probably has some of the biggest like
foreshadowing
out of like almost any movie. Like I even remember when I told you after we saw Endgame, I rewatched it, and then literally Tony Stark says after him and Thor go like Thor almost like tries like killing him because of he made Ultron. He goes, remember that hole up there? That's the end game right there. And it was just like, oh my gosh, that's literally, we finally realized that's the end game. There's so many little things, in that movie that's like, wow, like you don't realize it, even though that movie wasn't as well received as the other Avengers movies. There's a lot.
There's so much foreshadowing that like, if you go back and watch it just within the movies, foreshadowing of themselves, foreshadowing the future. I had Infinity War on for like 20 minutes the other day. And I realized when Spider-Man goes with Tony Stark into the donut spaceship to go save Doctor Strange, and he's like, well, you made this suit, so intuitive that I just came here. And he was like mad that he stuck on the ship with him. And he's like, so it's technically my fault that you're here. And he's like, what did you say? So that makes it even worse because it puts it in his head that it's his fault when he gets dusted at the end of Infinity War. Like it makes it even harder on him. Like, this is my fault.
But to be fair, he would have been dusted either way.
Regardless, it makes it harder. It makes it harder on him.
It's not like Thanos stabbed him and he died. It was like you got dust, like you were just the wrong flip of the coin. That's all it really was.
Yeah. But still.
I know. So my character I'm going to pick, and I think I'm 1,000% correct. And if you guys doubt me one more time, I don't know. And that is Dr. Doom.
I love it.
I think you don't need the Fantastic Four to have Dr. Doom around.
Yep.
Sure, he's a big part of it, but he could have also been in an Iron Man movie, and you can just have him in Latveria doing his thing. You don't need an introduction to the Fantastic Four. And I think with him being in things like with this like Fortnite event that's going on, you chose to have all these Marvel superheroes in this event, but you also randomly chose two villains, one of them being Doctor Doom and one of them being Mystique, which is, I feel like, kind of interesting because why else would
both Fox properties?
Both Fox properties. So why would you want to do something like that unless you're trying to get an audience familiar with the idea of a character? And I think it's kind of cool. And I also think it's interesting because I know Kang and Dr. Doom also have had a little relationship at one point, like they helped each other out for a little bit there. In the
recent comics, they were just doing it. They were just doing it.
So I feel like it's 100% plausible, and I think it would be, again, Dr. Doom is one of those characters that you can have in so many movies. Not only that, you can also set him up to have Secret Wars. You have the Battle World. You could have him on that big of a scale. We've seen that he could be literally have the power of like the Beyonder and still be, a great, like a regular everyday guy, but still have like this immense strength.
They can handle him the same way they handled Loki, and they should have done that with more villains. Like, sure, Loki's a Thor villain, but then all of a sudden he's helping them with something else. And then he's the Avengers villain. He's fighting all of the Avengers because of the Tesseract. It's the same thing with Doctor Doom. Like, he goes and tries to get this power. He fights the Fantastic Four. All of a sudden he's reluctantly teaming up with the Avengers or something like, and that would be great. Don't just throw him away. He's the ruler of Latveria, right? Like, let's make him, a main character of the MCU going forward.
Yeah, you can even introduce Doctor Doom to the Doctor Strange movies too, as well.
Sure.
Wasn't his mom like a mystic or like almost like
a
right. Black
Nets? You're absolutely
Doctor
correct.
Strange could have like once again like no, it's like that almost his mom set up something in Doctor Strange where he does something to his mom, and that kind of like whoa, the dark arts type of thing is even the fact of his mom sees the dark arts through Doctor Strange, something that happens in the next movie, which leads to her teaching him the dark arts as well. So he would go the dark arts route of Doctor Doom into, the past, present, or future, because Marvel does like these timepieces where, Doctor Strange flashback of, I guess, that wouldn't work though either, I guess, but something to the fact of where the dark arts of learning the dark arts from his mom could be fascinating when he sees Doctor Strange, even, where the fact of like, okay, this guy can be the biggest challenge I've ever had. And, if I can master his arts, then I can continue to take over the world like I've taken over Latveria or whatever type of deal.
Or, maybe it's something where something bad happens with that and he resents it and only wants to use his intellect, and resources. And he thinks like, this is bad, especially with the multiverse traveling and, potential time traveling, like who knows, maybe there is something there that would be neat. I would be down with that. Just don't lump him in with Fantastic Four's origin. give him his own story somewhere, and it'll be great. You know, he's a super cool character. Like I love seeing Doctor Doom fight people. You know,
oh my gosh,
even if it's not just the Fantastic Four, like it's fun. You know, no matter who it is.
He's a villain that once again it's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And I said you can have him cross into all these different movies leading up to whatever the end game. Well, I hate saying that word again. Like whatever the big payoff is for the Doctor Doom story they want to do.
And it'll be interesting contrast to a character like T'Challa, who's clearly a good guy and ruler, or leader of his own country, and you have this guy like Doctor Doom, who is the leader of his own country, and he's the bad guy. So I think there's also an interesting dynamic there to be had as well.
And I think it'd be another cool idea would be if he was, you have this 5-year gap, right, from Infinity War to Endgame, where he could have come up and started ruling, and then that's when he developed his country, and it could be that he could have became ruler of his country because of the things that he did during that time of people being disintegrated, right? So you could have this huge story of he helped build a country around dealing with such a traumatic event, and then have this really good character formation for a good story. I think there's just lots of potential right there.
Yeah, that's an ingenious idea, because I said too, while the world was a smaller amount of people, he started all these foundations of leading a great country. And then all of a sudden, all the heroes and all the people come back, and the dynamics of being a politician or a political figurehead completely change. And he gets angry with that idea of the world that he developed that was almost to perfection on a smaller scale is no longer significant in the bigger scale of things.
And perhaps poor,
right?
Because now double the people with half the resources, and that puts a lot of strain on you if you're not preparing for this. Maybe a country like the United States would have been ready for the blip. We still have the same amount of farms and stuff, but maybe little Latveria, they were prosperous with half as many people, but then all of a sudden, boom, there's twice as many again, and now you're back to square one, and everything you've accomplished is undone. And
now the only way you can keep up with the resources is by making all these Doombots. I think Marvel's what they're reading off our paper right now. How do they know our script?
Well, the Doombots, if there's a revolt against, the leader of Latveria, the Doombots can become the stormtroopers of Emperor Doom. Do you know what I mean, dude? In a weird way of
and then you can also tie this to Tony Stark too, right? Because Tony did the armor in every country thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's trying to get the idea from there, but to him, he perfected it, because these aren't just armors, because Doombots, each one of them thinks they're the real Doctor Doom, right? So it's beyond just a suit of armor. Each of these robots think they're Doctor Doom.
Or if you want to go, I was just thinking, my mind's going on circles now. Okay. Kane could be Doctor Doom's Darth Vader. The Conqueror. Because wasn't Darth Vader supposed to go out there and conquer the galaxy for the Emperor? And, more or less, Dr. Doom's always...
So you're saying a Doom Palpatine kind of dynamic?
Yes. In a weird way of saying that, because we know they're not too afraid to shy away from that Star Wars universe side of ideas for the Marvel universe. And some of their, Disneyfication of their universes, I guess you could say. And Star Wars is now part of Disney. Because when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, I felt I was echoing, that original Star Wars movie when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. That's interesting. I could see that. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I could see, Doctor Doom talking to Kang, and then they tried to develop a story, and then maybe Doctor Doom's really just, he's trying to give him his wisdom, try to tell him oh wow, you're so amazing, but at the same time he's just trying to steal his technology and advancement, and then he's gonna make Battle World or something, you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of things you can go with that.
So much fun to see unfold.
I would like to see them be related, just way down the line or something, maybe some of them be a Richard, but both descendants of, Reed Richards and Victor Von Doom, like somewhere down the line, is descendant of both of them, like that could work.
Yes.
I don't know. And I thought at some point some aspect of that was true, or is one or the other. And I could be wrong, but I think that would be fun. Let's just, let's fill in the blanks here, maybe a little bit. But I think that's about all the time we have for today. But thank you all so much for listening. If you did enjoy this, please share it on social media. Tell your friends about Nightcap Chat. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, iHeartRadio. We might be on Amazon Audible. I'm not sure if that's up or not. We're on Facebook, Instagram at Nightcap Chat. Or no, that's Facebook and Twitter, and Nightcap_chat on Instagram. But we appreciate all of your support. Ken?
Yeah, thanks again, you guys. I'm Ken Brown, and owner of Drawn to Comics with my co-owner wife, Susan, who's awesome, helps keep the boat afloat, to say the least. Can't do it without the community around us. We're located in downtown Glendale, Arizona, and also you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at just Drawn to Comics. And thanks you guys for listening.
And you can catch me on Twitch at Tales of Lance, and on Twitter and Instagram at Tales of Lance. And thank you guys for all the support that you've given to me on Twitch. I'm probably actually be streaming maybe a little bit after this. No, actually, probably tomorrow. I'll be streaming. So if you guys are listening to it, it's going to be today, but it might not come out till after, so you might have missed it already. So I don't know. You can check me out on Twitch today.
Well, thank you all for listening. Be safe. We love you, and we will catch you all next week.
Have a good night.
Thank you again.